it's Amy. And today the thought that I've been sinking my teeth into, we're going to call, have you seen my servant? Job's life is one that people will often refer to when trials come up, or when in the midst of a trial the situation goes from bad to even worse. Our humanity, we often wonder where God is in the midst of it, and thus the reference to Job and his trials are familiar grounds for us. We can correlate our situations with his, and we feel and we see that we aren't alone. We don't go through these things alone. It also gives us a glimpse of how God looks at his children, and as our Father, how he shows his love and his trust in us. But the book of Job also shows that God allows for uncomfortable and sometimes even painful circumstances to happen to prove us in our faith and our trust. These principles are a fundamental part of a solid relationship with him. Now, there's many key players in the book of Job. There's Job, obviously, who God deems worthy of going through the trials, and as Satan is talking to God, God even says, "Have you considered my servant Job? Have you seen my servant?" So God thought that Job was worthy to go through what he did. Then we have Satan, who at every turn looks to strip away God's place in people's lives and turn them against him, using the two tactics that he has, fear and doubt. There's God, whose conversation with Satan in and of itself is enough to erase any doubt of his love for us. We have Job's friends, who are determined to prove that Job has done something awful, that he's getting punished for, that there's a reason for all of this to befall on him. But there's someone who isn't referred to often. We all know what she says, but she's not referred to often when talking about the story of Job, and that's Job's wife. We all know she tells Job, "Why not just curse God and die?" So we can see from that statement where her state of mind is at that point. But it's not ever talked about in depth. Scripture does not describe or reference her relationship with God. We know that it talks about Job's relationship and how faithful he was, but his wife's relationship was never mentioned. So her comment to Job, while it's harsh, it's spoken in her brokenness, right? Job was not the only one suffering and losing his children and livelihood. Job's wife is part of that. She lost her children, whom she had raised from the time of their birth to where they were then, and she lost them all at once. The Bible doesn't give any detail, so I'm taking this strictly out of the book of Amy, but I'm sure she had a hard time. I'm sure that she struggled. I'm sure that, not only at first, maybe she tried to be strong for herself, for Job, for others that would look at them, but then it became a wound that festered. It wasn't enough that her children had died and they lost everything, but then she had to watch her husband suffer greatly in his body. She probably had to assume many more responsibilities than she had before. And she may have wondered herself if Job had done things to create this hardship, and maybe she resented him for it. Maybe she was mad at God. Maybe she stopped talking to him. But God knew what she would say. Job's wife, who was probably the closest to him, the one he loved, he had a family with, he had built a life with, who was supposed to support him in sickness and health, to have strength when the other couldn't. And it kind of seems like she turns against him, telling him it's better to just curse God and to die. God knew what she would say, though. God knew her heart. So when he told Satan, "Have you seen my servant Job?" he had already taken everything into account, and he still trusted Job and the choice that he would make. If we look at our own lives, God sees us as worthy and able to go through trials and tribulations. He knows our heart, and he allows for hurt to come into our lives to test our relationship and our foundation with him. And he allows even those that are closest to us in times of weakness to turn against us and speak negativity, when in our mind they should be the last on the list to ever do that. And he doesn't do that to destroy relationships or make us question trust in others, but to ensure our entire focus is on him. He says, I know all of this will go wrong. I know those closest may turn against them, but have you seen my servant? He says, I know them. I know their heart. They will choose me above all else. It's in that moment where we should seek him so he can complete the work which he started in us. Remember James 1:12. Blessed is the man who perseveres under trial, because when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. God believes in you. He's saying, have you seen my servant? He knows that he can and will help you succeed in your relationship with him. God bless. Be encouraged today.